Alright guys, today we have some brand new information on WWE 2K15 courtesy of IGN's associate editor Vincent Ingenito, who held a short Q&A on Twitter last night to answer questions about this year's game. So let's dive straight in with the first question from Jay Campbell, who asked, is there a My Player Style mode and how deep is it? To that, Vincent replied, there is, that wasn't part of the build I played, so your guess is as good as mine. So career mode is in, which we already knew, and that is basically My Player mode, but as far as how deep it is, much like Evolution, it's a mystery. Moving on to the second question, and O asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is the AI? Hard to say this early, AI is still a work in progress at this point, but it didn't do anything glaringly dumb. Even though Vincent didn't give a rating, the sheer fact that he says the AI didn't do anything glaringly dumb is a positive based off the last few years, so hopefully the AI continues to be improved leading up to release. George Nella asks, is the new stamina system better than the awful mechanic introduced earlier in the series? How is it different? Stamina system seems legit right now. 3-tier meter, as long as you don't fully deplete a meter, it slowly regens. If you fully deplete a meter, you drop down to the next tier where moves get slower and you're more vulnerable. This to me is some of the best news yet because it gives us a much better understanding of the stamina system and the effect that it has on gameplay, as we now know there's 3 tiers to the system. The first tier sees you full of energy as you start the match, the second sees you begin to tire, and the third sees you exhausted to the point that you'll be throwing wobbly punches just like IGN mentioned in the preview, with your moves becoming slower and leaving you more open to your opponent's attacks. The next question comes from Jonathan, who asks, is it easy to control for someone who hasn't played many fighting games or WWE games? Easy compared to fighting games. If you've never played a WWE game, there's always a bit of a learning curve, but not too hard. Caleb then asks, what do both the analog sticks and the D-pad do? Their functions have varied over the years. How do submissions work? Left stick moves, right stick is used in the chain wrestling minigame, D-pad taunts, and didn't notice any big changes to subs. So based on these last two questions, there doesn't seem to be much change in the actual controls, and it's still fairly easy for someone new to the franchise to pick it up and play the game, with the only real change being the right stick, which is now used in the chain wrestling or lockup animation that you use if you're trying to grapple at the start of the match. As for submissions, with Vincent stating there's no big change, it appears that we'll still have the breaking point system with the resiliency option, which is probably something people will have mixed feelings about. CS Evans asks, if a character is low on stamina when doing a move, will it look different than if they have full stamina? Yes, many moves have 2 or 3 different animations depending upon stamina. So again, this is great news for me because it means that we won't always see the same animation and it'll vary based on how much stamina we have, which is way more realistic and might explain why this year's game has 5 times as many moves as any other previous game if some of those are different variations of moves. Moving on to the next question, Antonio K asks, will we still be able to hit finishers out of nowhere and have catch finishers? Vincent then says, I can confirm catch finishers, not sure what you mean by out of nowhere, you still need to build your meter. Tony then clarifies his question by explaining he meant to be able to hit a finisher without first having to grapple, which Vincent confirms is still the case. So we now know we can still hit a finisher as normal and we'll have catching finishers return, but there's no mention of catapult finishers, which is something that I could see 2K removing because of the fact that they're going down a simulation route and a lot of the catapult animations weren't very realistic. Patrick Garrity asks, the were option sliders on 2K14 kinda confusing. Haven't been let into the full options menu, so I can't say, I hope they're back. So this question wasn't worded the best, it was more of a statement than a question, but I do agree with it as the slider options in 2K14 weren't really explained too well, but I do expect them to return in 2K15 because they come in handy and it gives you the option to customise the AI so you have the aggression of the legend difficulty, but the match doesn't have to turn into a reversal fest. Following his earlier question, Tony then asks if there's a new way to kick out of pins or if it's still the same meter, which Vincent confirms the kicking out works exactly the same as it always has. Next, Sean Norton asks, can Rey Mysterio power slam the Big Show and how is the selling system? Will wrestlers actually be hurt and stay down now? Nope. More stats outline your wrestlers' abilities this year and stick closer to them. Showing pain and selling is significantly improved, especially on strikes as you're getting up, which used to be no sold. So from this we know the weight detection system is still in place to stop the smaller guys lifting the big guys, and also the new AI styles mean superstars wrestle in styles specific to their characteristics, such as Mysterio being a high flyer and the Big Show a giant. Also, it's great to see we'll be getting new pain and selling animations, as that too will greatly improve the look of a match and make it more realistic, as the current animation that sees someone get back to the feet generally just sees them stand up as though nothing had happened. It also builds on last year when we've seen superstars hold their head in pain after taking a finisher or a strong grapple to the head instead of just laying flat out on the mat. The last question comes from Soon Dragon, who asks, will we have to sit through the quick time event every time we want to lock up, or is it only for the start of the match? Just the start of the match, and it isn't a quick time event. Positions are dynamic and the timing doesn't play a factor as much as decision making. So from that, we know you don't have to log up at the start of the match like we've seen in one of the earlier SmackDown vs Raw games where the match automatically started out that way. It's up to you if you want to log up, as you can initiate it by pressing the grapple button. On top of that, we also know the lockup animation isn't a quick time event, so it's not going to be down to who presses the button first. Instead, it'll be the winner of the rock paper scissors style minigame. Speaking of the minigame, it's something we could see in other areas like comebacks, as the fact that it's not timed means that it should work much better online, as lag wouldn't be as much of a factor as it would be in timed button presses. So that is all the tweets from the Q&A. There's quite a lot of information come out of it, and the key word seems to be realism, as a lot of the changes revealed continue to show how 2K and Yuke's are going for a more realistic simulation this year. So let me know what you think of all the new details in the comments. I actually love the sound of the changes, as I prefer slower, more realistic simulation, but let me know your thoughts below, and until next time, I'll catch you later.